Hey everybody and welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw. We're talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart.
and today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse.
Stick around to the end of the episode to see how our drawing of Peter B. Parker with Miles Morales came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a 2018 animated film, the first ever animated film for Spider-Man, and I gotta say, this is definitely top-tier Spider-Man storytelling.
Yeah, it's solid.
Definitely top
Solid
three,
film.
yeah. The film stars Shameik Moore as Miles, alongside the voice talents of Jake Johnson, a fully stacked cast, honestly, Liev
Right.
Schreiber, Mahershala Ali, Haley Steinfeld.
Half the MCU at this
Yeah,
point.
Oscar Isaac is even in the post-credit scene.
Right.
As we were watching it tonight, I was just like, half of these people are now in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild. Even Catherine Hahn is Doc Ock in this.
Agatha.
She's now Agatha. Yeah, so it's pretty funny seeing how all these actors are now being brought into the MCU.
I remember when this movie was first announced, I wasn't like overly excited about it. I was like, all right, like Miles Morales, and this was around the time of what 2018 it was coming to 2017 was when they finally got Tom Holland into the MCU with Spider-Man. So I was like, nah, man, like just stick to one centric Marvel Spider-Man and let's roll with this. Let's get this right. But this movie actually turned out to be a huge surprise for me. This was one of the best Spider-Man movies I've ever seen. It's definitely up there with Spider-Man 2. And the original Spider-Man as far as like character goes. It's a very well-written story, stunning visuals. This was like groundbreaking artistic choices being made here. Very influenced by comic books and halftones, and the animators killed it and like showed a lot of the
Absolutely.
passion in the project for sure.
The animators took years to make this film, and I
Painstaking.
can't. I'm patiently waiting for the sequel now because I
Yeah.
know that the craft that they have in this, the level of meticulous artistry
demands time,
is
yeah.
just. Put it all in there. We'll wait for the sequel. Give them a nice trilogy because
Half these animators' lives will be spent on this
yeah,
project.
yeah. Not only that though, but like I feel like there's a lot more you can do animated
Mm-hmm.
than you can do live action. Like you even said before, you're like, oh, I kind of wish I saw this live action, but
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. But at the same time, there's some liberties they can take doing this animated. All those crazy like the halftones, like you said, the sound effects, the thought bubbles. Those are things that they were only allowed to do in this. So. The visuals in this, the artistry, the creativity that went behind this is absolutely breathtaking.
Plus, it's so unique that I'm glad it stands on its own as an
Yes.
animated Spider-Man movie.
And all the character designs, there's a lot of like really cool looking things, like the Prowler's design I thought was great. Even the Kingpin, who's all traps. No, where is his neck? He's just he literally takes up the entire frame at one point. It's
He's
hilarious.
massive in this movie.
And it's not always about the money, Spider-Man. It's about the Mets, baby. Let's go, Mets. The style of which they did the multiversal stuff of like all those different crazy colors.
Glitches and stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
the dimensional glitching and all that is really cool. And it also brings in a ton of really cool looking characters like Spider-Ham, Penny Parker with SPDR. We got Spider-Man Noir, voiced by Nicolas Cage, perfect casting, and just a lot of cool things. We got Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen in this, so like a lot of cool different visuals and characters based on the Spider-Man lore.
And the way the story weaves throughout telling all these characters, multiversal Spider-Men and women, the way it weaves in and out, telling the origin story kind of really quickly and getting into the meat of the story. Obviously, Miles is the central character.
Yes, yeah.
But a lot of the characters you grow to love throughout this film. I think my favorite's got to be Peter B. Parker. I think that's probably a fan favorite.
Well, he's the OG, you know.
He's the OG. Plus, you got to root for a guy who's like down in the dumps.
Yeah,
and
down on his luck,
and,
eating
you know,
cheeseburgers on a
especially
kid's
as
dime.
like this is probably more of a kids movie, and Miles is like more hopeful teenager. But Peter B. Parker is like the one who's been doing it for 22 years. He's like been grinded down by life. He's got relationship
he's out of
problems.
shape,
He's out
yeah.
of shape. Yeah. So I love the whole mentor, Spider-Man aspect. That was incredible, and how it flips at the end where they talk about the leap of faith, great storytelling, and just a lot of emotional impact in this movie for sure.
Going back to the themes of this film, like we said early on, the Great Expectations. We see the book. We see the graffiti that he's doing. I don't know what's going on with my voice. Every time I come here, man, get this cat out of here. But we go from Great Expectations to the leap of faith at the end when he's reached the climax. He's going to be the hero. And then we go into the third act. You know, he's kicking ass, saving the world, saving the multiverse. It's all really good stuff.
And I think at one point he even takes that actual leap of faith to that sick visual where he's like upside down.
Yes, yeah.
The music's going. That's probably got to be one of the favorite scenes. One of my favorite scenes is when they're all fighting in Queens at Aunt May's house with all the Spider-Man and women like getting
broad
after
daylight.
it. Broad daylight, middle of the neighborhood, you know, like, and the villains just knock on the door and this like all out brawl. That was a very cool scene.
That's a really cool idea, cool concept.
Plus, like, it's the revelation of Miles Morales' origin woven throughout his uncle. He's not the one that's like talking about
Uncle Aaron.
You know, he's not like co-responsible. The dude's a criminal. He's the Prowler, and that was a really cool aspect of the story. He's trying to deal with where is he going to go in life. Is he going to try and follow his father's footsteps, even though he finds him annoying, or like he's going to go like the rebellious route, like just very teenage coming of age stuff that always fits well with Spider-Man. And it was cool to see Miles Morales because I never really knew anything about him in the comic books. I remember when he came out in the
he's
comic books.
a fairly new character.
He's still
years.
he's still pretty new, and there was a lot of controversy, this and that. But he's obviously become a very popular character and successful
brand,
character.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Granted,
to see.
He's got the Spider-Man name behind him.
Yeah, obviously.
But it's cool. It's not forced. It's not an agenda. It's
he's
very
got his
natural,
own individuality, identity. Like he's got his different set of powers. He doesn't do the spider web. He's got like electrocution, you know, like spider sting or whatever. He could turn invisible. So that was very cool.
Well, even when he was introduced
cool.
in comic books, like the Ultimate Comics, they'd already done like a pretty vast run with Brian Michael Bendis with the Peter Parker stuff. So at the end, like, you know, when Miles is introduced in the book, Peter gets killed in the book.
Dies, right? Yeah.
Similar to the movie, how
the
goes.
movie starts, yeah.
But like we at least got like definitely an omnibus worth of Peter Parker stories before they moved into this Miles Morales era of Ultimate Spider-Man. Same thing with this movie. I remember Chris Pine plays the first Spider-Man in the first few minutes. And when he gets killed by Kingpin, I was like, oh man, I hope that's not the end of that character.
Yeah, I was like, oh damn. It was a one-shot kill.
Yeah, I was like, oh man. But then I remember seeing like the trailers, promotion material had like another Peter Parker. So I was like, all right, cool. Like I was looking forward to that. But I was really like taken back when he kills him with his bare hands.
Yeah, the Kingpin's super overpowered in this. He's like the Incredible Hulk at this point.
I'm telling you, it's the traps, bro.
It's the traps. He's definitely benching, but like
he saw Dark Knight Rises too.
And he's a compelling villain too because he's got his own
definitely.
little story about, you know, Vanessa, which we know well from the Daredevil TV show, like that love connection of why he's driven for good things but with like evil intentions, kind of, you know. It's always a good thing when the villains aren't just evil for being the sake of evil. They have a little bit of a reason behind it. So
every villain is a lemon.
Yeah, it's always good to see a compelling character in a villain.
And I remember when they announced Kingpin as the villain for this, because I remember saying like, oh, who's gonna be the villain of this, you know? And then they said Kingpin. I was like, Kingpin? I was like, really? Like
all of it just seemed very oddball. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just for the sake of putting it out there. But
Yeah.
this movie, oh my god, this movie's
And like
incredible.
Kingpin's very hit or miss. Like he could either be super badass or super corny, depending on who's like, you know, writing him or you know doing their thing with him at the time. And you know, obviously we've seen some badassery with the Daredevil TV show. Even the Daredevil movie was pretty cool. The animated series, Spider-Man in the animated series, was good stuff. But some of the comics and stuff has been kind of corny. So when I saw Kingpin in this, like you said, I was hoping for a compelling villain, and he surprisingly delivers. And it's cool seeing like sprinkled villains throughout too. We got Scorpion, Tombstone, Prowler, Doc Ock. It's all cool stuff that we see, and I thought they handled the villains very well in this film.
It was also cool to see, like, almost get, like, pick and choose your favorites with Penny Parker, SPDR. Like, I think that was a Gerard Way creation.
Yeah.
My Chemical Romance, comic book writer, Doom Patrol, and Umbrella Academy. One of my favorites, so that was really cool to see that in there. And I hope that we see more of these characters in the sequel.
I definitely want to see more of Peter Porker Spider-Ham.
Yes, I want to see, but I want to see them, like, go even further, because this successful Spider-Man, the blonde Chris Pine Spider-Man, he had all these suits and stuff, but I was like, oh no, like show us different.
He was like Batman.
Yeah, he had like a spider cave and everything, Spider-Mobile. So I wanted to see what kind of other Spider-Man we're gonna get in the sequel, because obviously we're getting 2099. He's at the end credit scene,
which is a great post-credit scene. How it even goes back to the '67 animated, like the pointing meme of Spider-Man pointing at him. I really appreciate too how the villains are at the center of the emotional arcs of the film too, with the characters like Peter and Miles. It kind of goes hand in hand with like the Prowler, Aaron, and Kingpin. The Prowler plays a part. He's almost like the Uncle Ben.
That's what I was gonna say before.
He's like the Uncle Ben catalyst to Miles, and Kingpin is like relatable to Peter too, because at this point he wants to go back and get MJ. So like I just feel like there's a lot of parallels there, and it works very well.
From an artist standpoint, this movie's
It's got it all.
such a masterpiece. It really is so well done.
Speaking of a masterpiece, how about that soundtrack, boy?
Yeah.
This soundtrack is incredible. I highly recommend everyone going out and getting it or listening to it on Spotify. I personally want to go get the vinyl because every song is a bop. Every song is just a feel-good song, like, and it all flows very well with the film too, because all the songs are in the movie.
Honestly, there's not much bad to say about this movie. I don't think there's anything bad to say
There's
about this
nothing
movie.
bad to say about this film.
It's a solid origin story for Miles Morales. You see his arc. You go from this young kid, you got the mentor, he's learning how to swing, do all this. Like, by the end, he becomes...
Stealing a bagel.
Yeah, by the end, he becomes this full-fledged superhero, and so that's why I'm excited to see him in the sequel, where this universe goes with all these the Spider-Verse characters. Overall grade for this film, what are you going to give this thing?
This thing is getting a 10 out of 10.
I'm going to go 9.5. It's
Sticking
that
with my
good.
10.
Yeah, it's that good.
Why would you even lose a half point on it? Yeah.
Only because like I wanted to see more familiar villains, but like with the villains that we got, it works very well. So I just want to see it grow into something bigger with more recognizable characters. That's the only thing that I wanted from this film, but other than that, this film delivered.
This thing was a hit too. So now that
great expectations.
Obviously, we're getting a sequel. Like you said, build on that. Give us a trilogy. Really, just go off on it. You know your style now. This one, I feel like, was a lot of experimenting to get to that point of the art style that they wanted. Now they've mastered it. Go off.
Yeah.
Give us a trilogy of this thing. Go crazy with it.
And actually, now I'm saying that, it's actually better that they didn't go crazy with all the villains. Like, they had a very central villain with, like you said, Kingpin and Prowler were just like the main two.
Emotional,
because you have so
stuff,
many heroes that they had introduced and go with that, the way to that. So it's a 10 for me. This movie's a 10. I take it back. Leaning up to a 10 is perfection, just like Spider-Man 2. Because there's nothing to be flawed about this movie. What did you guys think about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Let us know in the comments below. Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!